This is Dave Rubin. He used to be a TYT host. He was a big deal on the left for a while, until he finally built an audience and took a hard right turn. Now he carries water for Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis and every other right-wing charlatan out there. Watching his political evolution from being progressive to being a right-wing nutterbutter was bizarre. This is part 2. If you didn't see part 1, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. Anyways, in this one, he decided to talk about the Palestine-Ohio train derailment and spin it up into a massive conspiracy. And of course, the Democrats are to blame for all of it. It gets absolutely crazy. Let's give it a listen.
Let's get back to the serious stuff. Here's a tweet from Benny Johnson with an image of the plume of smoke over East Palestine. I mean, this is...
Oh, God. Benny Johnson is a total propagandist. So if you don't know who this guy is, let me tell you. He probably got most famous for outing himself as gay inadvertently. He started complaining that some website he was using, I forget what the website was, he starts complaining that it's recommending a gay cruise to him. And he's sick of all these websites going woke and everything. Not realizing that this website uses targeted ads, which means it only shows him things that he would be interested in. If he didn't Google gay cruise, a gay cruise ad would not have shown up on that website. It doesn't use general ads. He just doesn't know how advertising works, apparently. So anyways, yeah, Benny Johnson outed himself as gay by accident. Poor guy. And, you know, he propagandizes for the right constantly. So I kind of have a hard time having any sympathy for him. But anyway, that's who Benny Johnson is. He's also, I think, like a news anchor on One America News or something like that. I don't even remember, like, who he works for.
This is just absolutely wild. And I thought Benny's commentary on this was quite good. He says, important reminder that the CDC, the NIH, Dr. Fauci, and every vaccine mandate tyrant who screamed at you to wear a mask so we can stay safe are totally silent as children breathe in this black death. The Karens never cared about.
Nobody is completely silent about, like, what the hell is he even talking about right now? This completely fabricated outrage. Doesn't exist.
Your safety, they only cared about power, evil frauds. I mean, look at that image. That image, if you just saw that with no context, you would think that a massive bomb, maybe an atom bomb, was dropped on a city somewhere far across the world.
Absolutely. Deeply disturbing stuff. 100% with you on this. How is this the fault of the Democrats or the fault of maskers or, you know, people in favor of vaccines or whatever? It isn't. It's completely fabricated outrage, all of it.
That is in America, in the heartland of America, in Ohio, within the last week or so. That is absolutely just wild. So I want to talk a little bit more about the abject failure, not only of our media, but of our politicians, because obviously Biden's barely talking about it. Gay Pete, our transportation secretary, somehow has been busy doing some other stuff, mostly making sure.
Dude, what? It's like suddenly the president and his cabinet should be talking about every disaster that happened. Is Dave aware that in the past week, 3 different derailments have taken place? There's one in Texas, there's one in Palestine, and there was one in Arizona, I think. And they had chemicals on board that are deeply deadly, dangerous to people. It's not just one event that's taking place. Is Pete aware that China is flying balloons over the United States and getting adversarial? Is Dave aware that Russia is waging a war right now in Ukraine and trying to propagandize to the American people, dragging QAnoners into the conflict by spreading nonsense, conspiracy theories straight out of the Kremlin? I mean, is Dave aware that these things are taking place and that Biden has other things to deal with in addition to the train? Is he aware that typically presidents will delegate to certain people? They will give responsibility for certain situations to others because there's so much going on? Like, apparently Dave thinks that Biden should be right up close and personal, right there in the mushroom cloud, working on something. Throwing rolls of toilet paper and paper towels at people, probably.
Sure, white people don't get jobs at the federal government. We'll talk about that in just a second. But then one more odd ecological thing that happened. I believe this is yesterday. Here is video of a truck filled with nitric acid.
Yeah, that's the other event that I was referring to a second ago.
That tipped over in Tucson, Arizona. What is going on here?
Let's see. Is it a road fire? No.
Yeah, nitric acid, I think. Seriously, I'm getting a little concerned.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, it's a semi.
Okay, so I am not sitting here telling you that these things are connected. I am not sitting here telling you that these things are intentional. But what I am telling you is that something weird is going on here, the way the media does not react to these things.
What's he talking about? How would he have known about this if not for the media? The media is definitely reporting on the derailments now, particularly on the Palestine-Ohio derailment. Yes, they absolutely knew about it, and we're talking about it.
However, if Donald Trump was president and this had happened, of course they would be blaming him. They would be saying, you see why this train derailed.
No, they wouldn't be. Although, to some degree, this is a little bit the Republicans' fault because they were encouraging deregulation, or at least trying to deregulate. In fact, the train company actually succeeded in lobbying the government to deregulate their safety standards, which would have made this situation not quite as bad as it was. If they had not deregulated the way that they did, this situation wouldn't have been as bad as it was. But, derailments happen. I mostly blame the train company for this.
In East Palestine, it was because Donald Trump doesn't fund the EPA and we've defunded the roads and bridges and
Yeah, look, if you don't want to be blamed for deregulating, then don't deregulate. If you don't want to be blamed for lowering taxes, then don't lower taxes. Like, you can't do something and then complain people are blaming you for, like, the bad side effects of it. Are you kidding?
But they do everything for narrative. So now, Gay Pete, as you know, I call him Gay Pete because he only got the job because he's gay.
Okay, this is the second time he said this, and no, he didn't. He's had a political career for a long time. What's he talking about? He was like the mayor of a city for like ever, right?
He was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. It is a tiny little city. What about 120,000 people or something? We've checked this before.
Tiny little city? 120,000 people? Are you fucking kidding me? That's not tiny. That's bigger than the entire area that I lived in West Virginia. It's bigger than like Huntington, Charleston, Barbersville, Milton, Hurricane, Taze Valley, like that whole area. 120,000 people. Holy shit, dude. That's a lot of people. What's he talking about? That's a tiny little area. No, it's not.
Or something like 120,000 people, South Bend, Indiana. He is a sort of mini Obama clone. He comes off as deeply inauthentic. He is completely unqualified for the job.
He is not unqualified for the job. This is like saying Ketanji Brown Jackson is unqualified. No, she's not. She's more qualified than just about any other Supreme Court justice there. More qualified than just about any other. Arguably more qualified than any of them. Pete Buttigieg is not unqualified for his job. He's perfectly qualified.
So for 10 days, it might have even been 11 and a half days, he did not address this. This is the transportation secretary. I don't know what his job is other than to address massive, disastrous train derailments.
No, actually, what is the job of the, what does the transportation secretary do? Prepares needed transportation legislation, helps negotiate and implement international transportation agreements, assures the fitness of U.S. airlines, and enforces airline customer protection regulations. That's what the Department of Transportation does. As the Secretary of Transportation, I guess his job is to assist in all of these things. He's like the CEO of all of these things, basically. Delegates. He pushes people to do this thing or that thing, or directs it to do that. That's generally what it's all about, I guess. It also issues regulations to prevent alcohol and illegal drug misuse in transportation systems. So if somebody is shipping drugs through the Postal Service, I guess the Department of Transportation would handle something like that. So there you go. That's what Mayor Pete or whatever does. That's his whole job. It's not to address train derailments, but he did address the train derailment for what it's worth.
He did not address this. This is
Yes, he did. He did address this.
the transportation secretary. I don't know what his job is other than to address massive, disastrous.
Well, that's on you if you don't know what his job is. I didn't either. I just looked it up. It's that simple. You can find out. I mean, you know, just load up your question go and go answer hunting. We have Google. We have the electric Google machine. We can find the answers to these things. It's not that hard. Instead, he's just going to say, I don't know. Seems like he should be doing this. I have no idea. Maybe he does something completely unrelated.
Train derailments, that seems like it would be kind of at the top of the list.
Seems like it, but it's not. Isn't that interesting? It's not. This guy has no idea what he's talking about.
But here he is a day or two ago, not addressing what's going on in East Palestine, but he is concerned that too many white people are working in the Department of Transportation.
To work with your contractors, to work with your community colleges on building a workforce that reflects the community. We have heard way too many stories from generations past of infrastructure where you got a neighborhood, often a neighborhood of color, that finally sees the project come to them, but everyone in the hard hats on that project looking like, doing the good paying jobs, don't look like they came from anywhere near the neighborhood.
Right.
You can build community wealth that will help close wealth gaps in this country if we can tear down those barriers. But that happens at the delivery level.
See how whacked out, I was going to say.
Well, he's a politician. He's not allowed to talk about political issues, whether they're outside his wheelhouse or not. I don't understand why this matters.
Say a bad word, I'll be nice. Do you see how really ridiculous these people are?
No.
So what Pete is saying there is that now when projects, let's say road projects, infrastructure projects, come to largely black communities, that the people there are upset because the workers don't look like them?
Yes, absolutely. This is part of the problem of gentrification, right? People are coming into this field or coming into this neighborhood and changing it, building it out, working on it, making it nicer and bigger and more expensive to live, and running some of these others out. If they're going to gentrify the area this way, then they should at the very least hire the people in that neighborhood to assist with it. They should be job creators for the area. I mean, that's fair. There's an argument to be made there. I don't know. I'd have to think about it a little bit further if I said that I agreed with this directly, but yeah, hire local seems to be what he's talking about right now, right?
Who walks around in that state of racial psychosis?
Yeah, it's not racial psychosis. It's just like a policy suggestion. I don't understand why he's so pissed off here.
Except a modern progressive. Oh my God, they're here and they're fixing the roads. Can I get the color breakdown on those people? That guy over there pouring the tar is Asian. Can we count the... Think how profoundly stupid it is. But speaking of profoundly stupid, we just checked some numbers. South Bend, Indiana, where Gay Pete was the mayor, the unqualified transportation secretary.
He's not unqualified for this. I don't know why he keeps saying that. Like, this is like his... This is the third or fourth time he said this, right? This is like a joke bit that he keeps trying to go with. He keeps calling him Gay Pete because he thinks it's funny or something.
Gay Pete, 75% white. Why?
Okay, so that's actually a higher percent white than in most other areas. What is it in other areas? Isn't it about 85% white or 80% white, something like that? I'm not sure.
Why did Gay Pete not put some white people on trains? It's coming. Put some white people on trains and bus in some black people. I don't know why Gay Pete didn't do that.
I have no idea what Dave Rubin is even talking about right now. I'm just completely fucking lost. Completely lost.
I have to bring that up with Gay Pete. But Gay Pete finally did tweet about East Palestine, finally, 12 days later.
He's just using this as like a political gotcha. I don't care if Pete tweets about this or not. I don't care what Pete tweets.
Here's what he said. I continue to be concerned about the impact of the February 3rd train derailment near East Palestine, Ohio, and the effects on families in the 10 days since their lives were upended through no fault of their own. Funny, he didn't comment on it for 10 days. It's important that families have access to useful and accurate information.
Well, he's commenting on it now. It's obviously not a cover-up exactly. I'm not sure what he's getting at.
USDOT, that's the Department of Transportation, has been supporting the investigation led by the National Transportation Safety Board. Our Federal Rail Administration and Pipelines and Hazardous Material teams were on site within hours of the initial incident and continue to be actively engaged.
Look, here's the thing about Pete, okay? Pete Buttigieg and the government and all of this stuff. It's like, should Pete have talked about this at the time? Should Pete have, like, tweeted about it or made reference to it or something when it happened? Maybe. Maybe he should have. Maybe Dave is right. But Dave isn't just making a point here. He's pushing forward a conspiracy. It's all black and white with these people, with Dave Rubin and other people on the right like this. It's constantly like there's some secret being covered up and the government is out to get you and you have to... Blah, 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 blah. It's like, it can't just be like, okay, maybe he should have, maybe he should have talked about this the other day. It can't just be like, all right, he dropped the ball. It has to be, there's a conspiracy and they're covering it up and they're out to get us and blah, blah, blah. So I'm downplaying the relevance and the importance and all the other stuff here. I'm downplaying the fact that maybe Pete should have responded or talked about this the other day. Because it's really not that important. It's not that big of a deal. But Dave Rubin wants to make it out to be the biggest deal. He wants to make this out to be like a huge cover-up, a conspiracy that the government is taking part in. I'm not going to play into it, okay? It's ridiculous.
So he said nothing. That's just a bunch of nothing. And he did it 10 days later. And we are to believe that this guy is in charge of the Department of Transportation. We have a massive...
Well, here's a prime example of what I'm talking about. You ever consider the possibility that maybe the guy was working on fixing it rather than doing PR? If the guy was online chronically talking about what was happening, you'd think that he was just doing PR constantly rather than actually working on the problem. Like, they are in a no-win situation here. I just want to point this out.
Environmental disaster. The environmentalists are being silent, and we have a completely unqualified head of the
He's not unqualified. Environmentalists are not being silent. This is all made up.
Transportation Department. It is insane. I did see a few memes of Pete that I thought were worthy of showing. So I tweeted these out. If you want them, I'll post them in the locals community so you can snag those images yourself. There you go. There's Pete with his helmet riding away from the giant ecological disaster. There's Pete smiling. He's thinking about the environmental disaster. And there's Pete with his open cardigan. Today I solved racism at construction sites. Look, at the end of the day, you have to...
Dude, these jokes and memes are so... God, what's the word I'm looking for? They're so, like... They appeal to such a narrow audience that almost nobody would get these jokes. Except for, like, Dave Rubin's audience. And they are so obsessed with hating the people around them. It's just bizarre.
To laugh about these people. That's not to diminish what's going on there, but, like, these people are absolutely ridiculous. How ridiculous are they? Well, Pete continued 2 days ago, where he still at this point had not even tweeted about the incident in East Palestine. And here he is making jokes about that Chinese spy balloon.
And that's where our partnership comes in. We're providing, again, more funding, but you all are going to need to put together the local information and the localized inputs on the applications about where some of these chargers actually need to go.
Right.
So that's just one example of the partnership that we are building up, but it couldn't be a more exciting time for transportation. It's had its challenges.
Right.
I mean, if you look at what the American transportation systems have faced in the last 2 or 3 years, partly because of the pandemic, we've faced issues from container shipping to airline cancellations. Now we got balloons.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just that's okay. That's a pretty funny joke.
But also the best time ever to be working in transportation because of these resources. And we know ultimately it's in the hands of those who are on the ground that the biggest difference is going to be made.
Right, exactly. It's in the hands of the people that are on the ground, not in the hands of the CEO of, the Department of Transportation, which is Pete Buttigieg. Just the whole thing is ridiculous, man, honestly.
He's just nothing. What he is a guy with a tight haircut and a well-fitting suit who sounds like Obama, who knows nothing of what he speaks. To joke about.
That's simply not true. He knows an awful lot. He knows a hell of a lot more about this than Dave Rubin does, certainly now. Even if he weren't qualified walking into that position, he's certainly qualified now. This is actually a really interesting level, but it's very long.
About the Chinese spy balloon. I joke about everything, but it's not like this guy is a jokester, right? Like, so he dismisses it. What he wants is you to dismiss it.
Oh, I see. So Dave is allowed. This is what he's saying. I mean, you're catching this, right? Dave's allowed to make jokes about anything because he's a comedian. But if other people make jokes about things, they're not joking, they're dismissing it. It's not a joke. It's a dismissal. Unless Dave's doing it. That is so interesting. That's an interesting rationalization right there, seems to me.
He wants you to, every time you hear Chinese spy balloon or our airspace has been violated or anything else, it's just kind of funny. That's just something Republicans think about, right? It's not something real. We have no idea.
Okay, nobody said this isn't real. The Chinese balloon is 100% real. And it's a problem. Absolutely. What's he talking about right now?
First off, how many of these have come over? And we blew up one over Canada. We don't know what information they were getting from secret military sites and nuclear sites that they were flying over and what they transmitted back to the Chinese. Balloons, it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. By the way, as we were playing that.
Dude, what? What's he talking about right now? Like, this is all fabricated outrage that makes no sense whatsoever.
That clip, my man Chris, working remote from another location, not in Florida. He's our employee, not in Florida. He has his reasons. He did a little Googling. 52% of construction workers are not white. So that, right? 52% not white or 52% are white? Oh, 52% are white. But that's pretty close to 50-50.
Okay, I don't know if that's even true. Don't trust any of his stats without looking it up yourself. But, okay. I don't understand. Who cares? I'm lost. Why would anybody care about that?
So if you really care whether the guy who is painting the lines in the middle of the road is white or black, you pretty much got a 50% chance.
I don't care about that. But Pete was making a point that these people that are gentrifying these areas are not hiring locally. That's really the problem. They're bringing people in from other areas to do this job when the community itself should be benefiting from the gentrification, basically. That's the idea. So Dave Rubin just misunderstands the point. Deliberately or what? I don't know. Makes no sense to me.
Chance that he's white or black or miscellaneous, okay? These people are unserious, ridiculous clowns. Oh.
This is coming from Dave Rubin, of all people. Coming from Dave Rubin. Okay, go on. Unserious, ridiculous clowns, you say.
Speaking of unserious, ridiculous clowns, Joe Biden is the elderly man pretending to be president. He did an interview here, and you can...
Yeah, that thing that he just said there, pretending to be president, that's a little dig at, election conspiracy theories.
See that the drugs were wearing off in the middle of it. He starts losing himself, which often happens. And he's also telling us not to worry about that balloon thingy.
Wasn't it a major security breach for the United States? Just the fact that the balloon came into the airspace and flew over the country for so many days?
No, look, the total amount of intelligence gathering that's going on by every country around the world is overwhelming. And the idea that a balloon could traverse, break American airspace is, anyway, it's not a major breach.
What? I don't understand the problem. What's the big deal? Yeah, he's right. There is intelligence gathering going on all across the world right now. There are U.S. politicians on Russia's payroll right now. Like, Vladimir Putin pays U.S. politicians. Which ones? Who knows? Marjorie Taylor Greene, maybe. Paying them to talk shit about the Ukraine war or about funding Ukraine or whatever. That's pretty serious. That's a breach of national security in my mind, right? But these people are like hyper-focused on the balloon that, to my knowledge, gathered no intelligence whatsoever. I mean, they specifically said, the U.S. government said, that they prevented the balloon from gathering any sensitive information about anything that they were flying over. So, yeah, I don't know what the big deal is here.
You must understand that Joe Biden has no idea what he's saying, and you could see the thought sort of just jumping away from him as he's saying it.
No, I didn't see that. What's he talking about? I mean, Joe Biden had a stutter, so sometimes he starts with a word and then chooses a different word. There's that, but I didn't see a thought like disappearing or anything.
It is very clear that a violation of our airspace is a problem. And
100%. That's why Biden shot the thing down. He shot down the balloon. Absolutely.
we do not know what was being transmitted. Or perhaps we've subsequently found it out and they're not telling us. I don't trust anything from this administration anyway. But his dismissal of this, well, then why did we blow the one up over China? Why did we wait to blow this one up? Why didn't we just send it back to them and then send a sternly written, sternly worded letter?
What's he talking about? So this is an interesting catch-22 that Dave Rubin and many people on the right take part in. No matter what happens, no matter what, Biden does, no matter what Pete Buttigieg or any other Democrat does, they will find fault with it, no matter what it is, right? So, if Biden had allowed the balloon to pass by, he would have said, you didn't shoot it down, you messed up. If he shot it down, he would have said, it must have contained important information and you're lying, or you wouldn't have shot it down. No matter what decision is made, it is always the wrong decision. Now, is there anything good that Dave Rubin can say about Joe Biden or anything that he's done? Is there anything good he can say about him? There are a couple of good things that I can say about Trump. You should be able to pick out one or two good things about, anybody. If you aren't viewing things in a framing that is disingenuous and hateful by default, with just irrational hate for somebody, you should be able to find one or two good things about somebody, right? Literally everything that that Joe Biden does, Dave Rubin finds fault with. Literally every single thing.
You Chinese people, stop sending your balloons. What do you think it is, Chinese New Year? No more balloons. He's just ridiculous. But
he didn't say that. You're just making this up.
But watch this. This is just great because, as you know, it's not just Biden that's incompetent. It's not just Pete that's incompetent. It's the entire administration that's incompetent. But why do they somehow get people to vote for them? Because they have an entire structure, a mainstream media powered by big tech that goes out of its way to defend them. It not only does that, but it would do the complete reverse if it was a Republican in charge. So here's a nice video compilation of the leftist media holding water, carrying water for Joe Biden.
Wait, are they holding or carrying? I'm confused.
Republicans argued that the balloon, the size of 3 school buses, should have been taken out over the Pacific.
If you're Biden, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you...
You can't do that. You know why? Because the Pacific is not our airspace. They're saying they wanted to take it out before it entered our airspace. That would have been a full-blown act of war by China. There's no reason to shoot down a Chinese balloon or a Chinese aircraft is what it is. That'd be like, us just kind of flying near Alaska and China comes in and shoots down one of our fighter jets. That's what that would be. That's the equivalent. You can't shoot it down over the Pacific. You can't shoot it down until it violates our airspace.
You don't. Let's say he had shot this down somewhere over the country. All this metal and glass comes clanging to earth and could have hurt somebody.
And it lands on something, hurts somebody.
3 buses worth of metal will be falling down, potentially on hospitals, potentially on kindergartens. That could hit a kindergarten, a hospital, heaven forbid, fall on a kindergarten or a hospital.
Isn't it defensible that they would not want to take down something that could have hit a school or a church
or it could have contained, an agent inside of it. Not a person, but like a bioagent or any number of things. It could have contained all kinds of stuff, right? It could have contained a nuke. Could have had anything in it. Like, who knows? The U.S. government probably did, but we didn't, and it was perfectly reasonable for them to wait. If Biden had shot it down immediately, they would have complained that he was risking war with China. Since he waited to shoot it down until it was, over the Atlantic Ocean, they're complaining he didn't shoot it down sooner. If he hadn't shot it down at all, then they would have complained that he didn't shoot it down. They would have said he should have. They would have said he should have waited until it goes over the Atlantic. They will find any reason. Dave Rubin and these other right-wing extremists, congressmen and others, they will find any reason to complain, anything they can find to attack Biden or Democrats over. They'll do it.
a farmhouse.
It's easy to start spinning in the absence of more concrete information.
Well, obviously, this is serious, but I thought that producers had smelling salts on the side of the set for Republicans who came on.
Republicans practically tripped over themselves over the weekend to call out President Joe Biden.
Oh my God, just hyperventilating about this.
Is there a specific part of the country where they think, or say specifically, this is where it should have been shot down? I mean, what are they talking about?
We should have shot down this balloon over the Aleutians.
Well, they simply don't know, Jake.
The administration did what politicians usually say they want administrations to do, follow the advice of the Pentagon.
Guys, the shrapnel might fall on a hospital
or it could have contained a bioagent, or it could have contained a nuke, or it could have contained any number of things. It's completely reasonable. Look, you don't know what was in that balloon. You don't know the situation. You don't know anything about this. You know who does? The people that shot it down. They made a call. They're looking for any reason to talk shit about Biden right now, and it's transparent and ridiculous. If Trump had waited, if the Trump administration had said this, it would have been completely reasonable. I understand I don't have all the information, but the generals do. So I would have just kept my mouth shut and accepted it and said, okay, you know what? They know what they're talking about. They know more about this information than I do. I'm just going to let them make their decisions and hope that they didn't transmit information back. As it turns out, apparently, 3 different balloons flew over the U.S. during the Trump administration. 3 balloons, Chinese in origin. And they were not shot down by Donald Trump. So take that for what you will. From my understanding, he didn't know until after.
A million opportunities to blow this thing up. I'm not diminishing the fact that you don't want 3 bus worths of metal to fall on people, but you also don't want a enemy rival nation taking pictures and video of, say, your nuclear sites or other top secret information.
Well, they already had those pictures snapped because it flew over top of Minnesota, I think, and that's where those nuclear sites are. But the U.S. government, trust them or not, for better or worse, said they jammed transmissions. They protected the area from, being sensitive to having pictures taken or anything like that. So you can believe them or not believe them. That's up to you. But that's what was said.
Now, I know we're not that very good when it comes to protecting top secret or classified information. Often I'm told if you keep it near a Corvette, that somehow will keep you safe.
Again, another culture war issue that this guy is feeding into. Biden had some documents in his garage near his Corvette, his locked garage. That's what he's referring to. But this is like another example of Dave being in an echo chamber.
But of course, this is just the complete reverse. Imagine if Trump was president, a Chinese spy balloon went over.
This actually happened.
And then Trump didn't shoot it down until it had traversed.
This literally happened. He didn't shoot it down at all. It just flew right back to China.
First, the whole country and everything else. The exact same frauds that you just watched there would be saying this proves that China is in charge and they have information on Trump and somehow this is related to Russia. And
no to all of that. See, this is the problem with the political right at this moment in time, Dave Rubin particularly. They think in blacks and whites. It's either completely made up and baseless or it works to their advantage. You know, everything is about Russia or it's not. No, sometimes things really are actually about Russia. Sometimes Russia does come into the mix. Sometimes Russia pays politicians in the United States to propagandize for them. Sometimes politicians work with Russia. Like Paul Manafort was indicted for his role working with Russia. There were something like 34 indictments of people for propagandizing for Russia, for lying and sending information back to them and stuff, right? With the Mueller investigation. They just have a vested interest in making it out like this is all fake. It's not.
Trump is weak and blah, 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 blah.
Well, Trump is weak.
Get it. But really, the point of all of this really is that why is it that these people 3 weeks ago, or whatever it was, 2.5 weeks ago, felt that the Chinese spy balloon, as it was traversing the country, it was the biggest freaking deal known to man.
Well, the story went viral. That's what happens with viral stories.
But then they will defend the guy who so nonchalantly dealt with it, right? And who clearly doesn't even know what he's doing. China has satellites that spy on us. We have satellites that spy on China. They don't need a balloon. So what type of provocation really was this? What really is going on here?
Well, see, here's the thing. You don't know, Dave. He has no idea. He has no clue. He does not have the information necessary to come to any conclusions about this. So what's the next step? Make shit up. The next step is to make shit up.
I don't have the answer to, but I assure you, you will not get the answer by watching corporate press. Interestingly, here is video from CBS News that U.S. intelligence knew the balloon was on its way before it even got here. So we could have blown it up when it wouldn't have fallen on a hospital, a kindergarten, a bowling alley, or, God forbid, an ice skating rink.
Okay, I don't understand what he's saying with the ice skating rink thing. That may be another culture war issue that I'm not privy to, but we can't shoot it down until it enters our airspace. It's not a provocation until it enters our airspace. Otherwise, it would be an act of war on China.
Back here in Washington, there is breaking news tonight on that Chinese spy balloon. CBS News has just learned that U.S. intelligence watched the high-flying airship as it lifted off near China's south coast. That means the U.S. military had been tracking it for nearly a week before it entered U.S. airspace, longer than originally known. CBS's Nancy Cordes is at the White House. So, Nancy, they were watching this from the beginning?
They were, Nora, and what they saw was this balloon heading east from China towards Guam and Hawaii. But then it took a sharp northward turn, a beeline towards Alaska.
You know, it's possible. I don't know how all of this works, and I'd venture to guess that Dave Rubin doesn't either. I'm guessing the U.S. is probably looking at logs. I'm guessing this stuff is tracked automatically. Oh, my God. I'm guessing this stuff is tracked automatically, and we don't watch it directly, like every single item. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I don't have any idea. So they were probably, like, they could refer back to the logs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody was conscious and aware and directly watching and informing the president or whoever else of the progress of this thing. Maybe they just referred back after. Who knows? Dave certainly doesn't know.
They also revealed today that the 3 subsequent objects they shot down probably were not involved in spying. The 3 objects shot down this weekend may have been harmless research balloons. That's now a leading theory for the intelligence community.
There's strong consideration that these objects are indeed benign.
They won't.
Right. So, okay. This is a reference to the unidentified flying objects that were just shot down over the U.S. recently. We don't know what they were. Congress was given a briefing on these UFOs. They're cylindrical objects about the size of a car, give or take, and they've been shooting them down. Unfortunately and weirdly, after shooting them down, the U.S. was hoping and expecting somebody to complain about it, I think. They were hoping someone was going to say, hey, that was our whatever. You can't just shoot our shit down. But nobody came out. No one, said, hey, that was mine. You can't shoot my stuff down. Just radio silence, which is deeply confusing. Like, who did these cylindrical objects belong to? No one has any idea. And they remain UFOs for that reason, unidentified flying objects. They had no obvious means of propulsion. They are apparently not balloons. And evidently, this has been going on. I mean, they've been flying these around since 2017, at least. It's been going on for a long time. People just aren't sure. They don't know. They don't know what's going on with these. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, there's a lot of speculation that it's aliens. I don't believe it's aliens. I need evidence for that. I'm willing to accept that it's aliens if there is enough evidence. There just isn't.
Won't know for sure until they find the debris.
They're in very difficult terrain.
The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff described the challenge. One object came down in the Arctic Circle, where it's minus 40 degrees. The second came down in a hard-to-reach part of the Canadian Rockies. And the third plunged into Lake Huron, a couple of 100 feet deep.
We'll get them eventually, but it's going to take some time to recover those.
Do you guys get what happened here? We knew the thing was coming, and then it's on its way to Guam. It's on its way to Hawaii.
Yeah, this is all happening now because apparently we have this system called NORAD in the United States that tracks objects in our airspace, basically. And apparently we increased the sensitivity of it after the balloon situation, the Chinese balloon. And we discovered a whole bunch of objects in our airspace that didn't belong there. So the U.S. decided to shoot them down. Now, I don't know who these belong to, if it's Chinese in origin or what. I have no idea. But, yeah.
Why? And it's on its way to Alaska, and we didn't do anything about it. I'm not a geologist. I don't have a map in front of me or even, well, I guess I've got a globe behind me. But you know what's between Guam and Hawaii and Alaska? Water.
If it's not in our airspace, we can't shoot it down.
Cool, crisp.
Dude, how much you want to bet that's actually alcohol he's drinking?
Refreshing water. And we could have blown this thing up. We could have blown it up. If let's just say we don't know. They're just sending out their little benign balloon. It's floating around. We don't know what's happening. It does seem like it's going in our direction, but okay, we don't want to be, intentionally provocative. How about the moment it crossed U.S. airspace? Since when do we let other countries just fly some shit in?
Well, that's what they've been doing, is shooting it down after it enters our airspace, but before it actually enters land. We've been shooting it down then, recently. That was the whole thing with, shooting down these UFOs. That's what they've been doing, shooting down stuff that was in our airspace but still over water. I think like 25 miles or something like that past the coast is still technically our airspace, from my understanding. I'm not really super clear on exactly when it becomes our airspace or what, but yeah. Dave is just making something out of nothing here, of course.
We don't know what it is. Might be benign. Could be an EMP. Who knows? Let's just see what happens. It's so profoundly ridiculous that it is. Well, speaking of profoundly ridiculous, I've got a clip of.
I don't understand why this is so profoundly ridiculous to him.
We'll see what happens. It's so profoundly ridiculous that it is. Well, speaking of profoundly ridiculous, I've got a clip of Justin Trudeau because he's concerned.
God, I thought he was going to say Justin Bieber for some reason. The Biebs. I wonder if Dave is a believer.
Because UFOs are flying over North America, and, we had to shoot one down over his country because he was probably busy, buying new socks.
What? No. He just didn't have the fighter jets scrambled to shoot it down. And he asked the U.S. as a NATO ally to shoot it down for him. So they did. Simple as that. He finds every reason to hate everybody around him, doesn't he?
NORAD told the Associated Press this weekend that they have an idea of what this aircraft is. Is there any reason we don't have more information on what this aircraft is?
Our focus right now is on recovering it. Obviously, there is much analysis going on at the highest levels of NORAD in both Canada and the United States to try and understand more, to facilitate in the location of the object, and to understand better and be able to answer the questions that Canadians have. And as soon as we have more clarity and better answers to give to Canadians, we will be giving them.
So this is 3 aircraft shot down this weekend, or this past weekend. Do we have no idea whether this is a pattern or whether these are connected?
Well, I think obviously there is some sort of pattern in there. The fact that we are seeing this in a significant degree over the past week is a cause for interest and close attention, which is exactly what we're doing. We've deployed significant resources here to be able to recover the object, as well as diplomatic and international engagements going on to find more information and to get solutions on this.
You got.
That's kind of interesting. From my understanding, the briefing that the congressmen and others went through regarding these unidentified objects, the briefing basically said, we don't know exactly what it is. We don't think it's, affiliated with the government because nobody has taken credit for it. Or if it is affiliated with the government, it's a new technology and they didn't want us to know about it, which will be really useful to us once we get it. Because like I said earlier, these UFOs have no obvious means of propulsion, basically. They don't know how they're getting around, so I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens with it. Right-wing pundit, I don't know what Pete's job is, but he is unqualified for it. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. He's unqualified to, that's all Dave talks about. Gay Pete, he said. Gay Pete is unqualified to be the transportation secretary. No idea what he does exactly, but he's unqualified. Trust me. I don't even live that far from East Palestine, and no one is talking about it here. That's deeply concerning. How far are you? God, you can just at me in the chat if you want. You don't have to send another super chat if you don't want to. But yeah, how far? Are you within 100 miles or something like that? Because I've heard that the 100-mile range is at risk of, effects of this stuff being around. So good luck. God, I hope you're okay. I lived about 200 miles away from Palestine, so that's not fantastic. Alpha Force Zero's whole family lives about 200 miles away from Palestine, Ohio.
Got it. It's just meaningless drivel. Also, why was he reporting from Hoth, the ice planet of Hoth? Did you see the Tauntaun run by?
Dude, it's Canada. It basically is Hoth, okay?
Him back there, which was making me think. You remember at the beginning of Empire Strikes Back. Do you know how the whole thing begins, since Trudeau was obviously standing on Hoth? Remember, the rebels have a base, and Vader, he's pissed, and he wants to take out the rebels, especially that Skywalker dude who just blew up his big ship, the Death Star, at the end of Part 1. So what does he do? He sends a bunch of satellite spies. They're not balloons, but they're electronic devices. He shoots them all over the galaxy. One lands in Hoth. They find the satellite there, the spy satellite, and then what does Han Solo and Chewie do? When
they blast it.
First, they have to save Luke from the Wampa. Wait, did that happen after? Did they save Luke from the Wampa first or after? Anyway.
Oh my God. He's getting off on a ridiculous tangent. I don't know what this has to do with anything at all. But just for the record, I've seen the Star Wars movies 15,000 times or some crazy shit. And Chewie and Han, or Chewie at the very least, was out in the cold, saw that little black droid that was flying around, the little spy droid, blasted it, and then they got invaded by the Empire after that.
Moot point. That's a sidebar. But what do? They don't wait to go, is that thing benign? Or is it actually spying on us and they're going to blow up our generator and we're not going to be able to get the ships off Hoth? They blow the fucking thing up. You see the point, guys? We're governed by...
I'm trying real hard. I'm trying to see the point. What is the point? Is he saying that people should blow up? What? They already blew stuff up. I don't understand. Didn't they already blow up the whatchamacallit things? The whatchamahoozits? Didn't they already blow up the little flying cylindrical UFO things? They did blow it up, right? What's the point? Is he complaining that they didn't blow them up?
By morons. I would much rather have whoever was in charge, the rebel leader at Hoth, would be a hell of a lot better than Justin Trudeau. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre.
Well, absolutely. The rebel leader of Hoth would most definitely be a fantastic leader. Obviously, yes. No question about that one.
She doesn't know what's going on.
Karine Jean-Pierre, who is about to talk here. She is the press secretary, I believe. She's the one that speaks for the White House, for the president. She has notes and she answers questions and stuff.
For this point, but on the criticism
That's her.
Coming from lawmakers that the president hasn't spoken out more on this, should we expect to hear from him at some point, or is part of the reason that we're not hearing from him because, as you said, people shouldn't be panicking? Is there a concern that the president?
I don't have any announcement or anything to preview on a potential, remarks by the president.
Should people be panicking? You know, a bunch of UFOs were shooting things down, spy balloons over here. She don't have anything. How the hell am I supposed to know? I just put on these colorful outfits and do my perm and get out there and just say I don't know what I'm doing. That's
sad, man. Dave Rubin, basically what Dave is saying here is she's worthless because she's a woman. I don't know. I just go out there and I get my hair permed and that's it. That's all I do. That's my value to the world. What is wrong with this guy, honestly?
My job. Ugh. Guys, there are so many bad actors here. There are bad actors like across the board.
What gives him the idea that Karine Jean-Pierre is a bad actor? What gives him the idea Biden is a bad actor? I don't understand. People that are like nefarious and are setting out to like wreck the system and destroy things. That's what I assume he means when he says bad actor. In what way is Karine Jean-Pierre a bad actor?
Our political leaders, our media leaders, our tech leaders, there's just so many like corrupt buffoons in charge of everything, right?
What gives him that? I mean, sure, yeah, there were probably some corrupt buffoons in charge, absolutely. But the specific people he's talking about right now, Karine Jean-Pierre, press secretary, and Biden specifically, what gives him the idea that those two people are corrupt buffoons?
Right now, it is, thank God we live in Florida. So right after this show, instead of punching a random person, as I used to do when we lived in California, I can just walk outside and see a lizard. That really is what's keeping me going at this point. They lied to you guys. They lie about everything, and they will lie again. And you.
What did she lie about? She didn't lie about anything, did she? She just said, I don't have any information to give you right now. What's the lie? That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, check me out on Patreon. And let me know if you want to see more stuff like this in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.